An officer rescues two twin sisters. But years later, shocking news changes everything. On a chilly autumn evening in Seattle, in a quiet, shadowy alley, Officer David, a kind-hearted policeman, spotted two small twin girls digging through a dumpster for scraps. This sad sight hit him hard, stirring his heart and setting him on a tough but meaningful path. From facing judgment from others to disagreements with his girlfriend, David wrestled with a big question. Could he find the strength to help these two kids who needed him so much? One small choice in that moment sparked a powerful story, a journey that changed 3 lives forever. It's a heartfelt tale of David stepping into a role he never expected, becoming a caring guardian to 2 girls the world had overlooked. That night, David had just finished a long shift at the Seattle police station. It was a crisp fall evening, with a cool breeze slipping through his jacket. He decided to walk home to unwind after a busy day and enjoy the calm city streets. The roads were empty, with soft orange streetlights glowing on the damp pavement. His thoughts drifted until a faint noise caught his ear, a rustling sound. Like someone was sifting through trash. David paused, listening closely. At first, he thought it might be a raccoon. But then he heard something else, a quiet sniffle. Like a child crying. A chill ran down his spine. Why would kids be out here at this hour? Worry pushed him toward the alley nearby. The deeper he went, the darker it got, with shadows swallowing the faint light. Then, under a weak street lamp, David saw something that stopped him cold. 2 twin girls, maybe 6 or 7 years old, knelt beside a rusty dumpster. One girl, the taller one, was reaching into the pile of garbage. The other stood nearby, clutching a ragged scarf, her eyes wide and watchful. Both were painfully thin, their faces pale, their eyes tired, like they'd known hunger and fear for too long. Their clothes were torn and dirty, their bare feet scratched and chilled from the cold ground. Their dark, wavy hair was messy and knotted, like no one had brushed it in weeks. David froze, not wanting to scare them. In the dim light, he saw the taller girl pull out a soggy piece of bread. Sniffing it carefully, up close, their thin cheeks and cautious eyes told a story of hardship. David crouched down slowly, keeping his voice soft. Hey there, I'm a police officer. You don't have to be afraid, I just want to help. The taller girl flinched, pulling her sister back, her eyes sharp with fear. Stay away, we're not going with you, she said, her voice shaky. David raised his hands gently. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to make sure you're okay. You look hungry. The smaller girl peeked up at her sister and whispered, Can we trust him, Emma? The taller girl, Emma, stared at David, her face torn between worry and doubt. But something in David's warm, steady eyes seemed to ease her fears. After a long pause, Emma gave a tiny nod. David reached into his pocket and pulled out a cereal bar he always carried on patrol. He set it on the ground in front of them and stepped back. Here, take this. It's safe to eat, he said kindly. Emma crept forward, her thin hands trembling as she picked up the bar. Instead of eating it, she broke it in half and gave the bigger piece to her sister. Sophie nibbled it quickly, her eyes lighting up with relief. Emma stayed watchful, but her shoulders relaxed a little. I can take you somewhere warm. Where there's food, David said softly. Emma hesitated, her small face unsure. Where would we go, officer? She asked. David knelt to her level, his voice gentle but firm. To a place where you'll be safe. With a bed and no more cold nights. I promise. Sophie's voice was barely a whisper. We don't want to go to a foster home. Her words struck David like a punch. He didn't know their story. But he could feel their pain. Without thinking twice, he called for an ambulance. While waiting, he led the girls to his patrol car to keep them warm. David wrapped his jacket around their shivering shoulders. Emma looked up, her voice small. Thank you, officer. David smiled, a warm feeling growing inside him, a need to protect them. When the ambulance arrived, David rode with the girls to the hospital. He held Emma's cold, tiny hand, whispering, You're safe now. I won't let anything bad happen. Emma and Sophie didn't speak, but their eyes held a spark of hope. As the ambulance zipped through Seattle's quiet streets, its lights flashing red and blue, David realized this wasn't just another night on the job. His life was about to change forever. In the ambulance, David sat between the 2 girls. Emma leaned against the window, still gripping his jacket tightly. Sophie curled up close to him, her small hand holding his like he was her lifeline. David spoke softly. "You're going to be okay. I'm right here." Emma glanced at him, her brown eyes less guarded now. She didn't say anything, but his presence seemed to calm her. Sophie whispered, "We won't have to sleep outside again, right?" The question broke David's heart. No child should ever feel that fear. "I promise," he said firmly. "You won't go back to that." At the hospital, nurses and doctors were ready. The girls were whisked to the emergency room, and David stayed close, his eyes never leaving them. Both girls were placed on clean white beds, looking so small and fragile. A doctor approached David, holding a clipboard. "They're very weak," she said, her voice kind but serious. "The older one's malnourished, and the younger has some scrapes and bruises." David nodded, his throat tight. "Will they be okay?" "We'll do our best," the doctor said. "They've been through a lot. But you got them here just in time." Those words hit David hard. The image of Emma and Sophie by the dumpster, searching for food, haunted him. He peered through the glass into the room where the girls were being checked. They looked so delicate. He couldn't imagine how they'd survived so long. A nurse waved David inside. Emma sat on her bed, her eyes still cautious but softer now. Sophie was asleep on the next bed, worn out from the night. David pulled a chair beside Emma's bed and sat down. "How are you holding up?" he asked gently. Emma looked at her hands, her voice quiet. "We're okay, but we don't want to go to a foster home." Her words stung David. He could only guess what they'd been through. He took a deep breath. "I'll make sure you're safe. No one's going to hurt you anymore." Emma studied him, her eyes searching. "You mean it?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I mean it," David said, his gaze steady. Emma nodded, and for the first time, David saw a hint of trust in her eyes. That night, David stayed at the hospital. He sat by Emma's bed, watching over her while Sophie slept soundly. Emma lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her face full of worries no kid should carry. "You okay, Emma?" David asked softly. She shook her head, her voice a whisper. "We don't want to be trouble. If you help us, we'll be good." David's heart sank. She was so young, yet felt like a burden. He took her hand, feeling its cold tremble. "Emma, you and Sophie aren't trouble," he said warmly. "I want to help because you deserve it. You're not a problem to anyone." For the first time, Emma's eyes filled with tears. They rolled silently down her cheeks, and David gently wiped them away. A strong feeling grew inside him, a promise to protect them no matter what. All night, he stayed by their beds, watching Sophie's quiet breaths and Emma's small movements. He didn't know what lay ahead, but one thing was clear: his life was different now. The next morning, Emma woke up and saw David still there. He gave her a kind smile, his eyes warm. For the first time, Emma smiled back, a tiny smile. But to David, it felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. The next day, David left the hospital, his heart heavy. The cool Seattle air bit at his face. But he hardly noticed. His mind was on Emma and Sophie, two fragile girls who needed him. On his way home, he stopped at a cozy coffee shop to clear his head. He ordered a coffee and sat by the window, staring at the gray sky. But his thoughts were with the girls. Emma's tired eyes, always guarding her sister, and Sophie's shy hope. He pulled out his phone and hesitated before calling Lisa, his girlfriend. Lisa was his partner, the woman he planned to marry next summer. They'd talked about their future, a home, kids someday, a steady life. David hoped she'd understand why this mattered so much. Lisa picked up, her voice groggy. "David, where are you? I thought you'd be home last night." David explained everything: finding the girls, taking them to the hospital, staying by their side. He shared their fears, their hunger, their trust in him. When he finished, Lisa was quiet for a long time. "I know this hurts you," she said finally, "but you did the right thing. The hospital will take care of them now." David leaned back, closing his eyes. He knew she meant well, but it didn't feel like enough. "Lisa," he said softly, "I think I want to adopt them." The words hung in the air, heavy and bold. Lisa gasped. "What, David, are you serious?" "I am," he said, his voice steady. "They have no one, Lisa. I can't let them go back to the streets or a bad place." Lisa's tone sharpened. "David, this is crazy. We're not ready for kids, especially not strangers you just met. We have plans. A house. Our wedding. You're throwing it all away. David's chest tightened. He understood her fears, but he couldn't shake the image of the girls. I'm not throwing anything away, he said, but Emma and Sophie need someone. I can't walk away from them. Lisa's voice grew cold. What about me? I didn't agree to this. I don't want our life turned upside down. David felt her words cut deep, but he pressed on. This isn't a snap decision. Lisa, I feel like I'm meant to help them. Lisa sighed, sharp and frustrated. I can't do this. David, I need someone who puts us first. The line went quiet. Finally, Lisa spoke, her voice flat. I need time to think. I'll call you later. She hung up, and David sat there, feeling empty. He knew Lisa might not come around, but he also knew his choice was made. Emma and Sophie came first, no matter what it cost. That afternoon, David returned to the hospital. When he walked into the room, Emma and Sophie were sitting on the bed, playing with a stuffed bunny a nurse had given them. Emma looked up, her face brightening. You came back, she said, her voice full of surprise and joy. David sat beside them, smiling. I told you I would. I'm not going anywhere. Sophie peeked at him, her eyes shy. Where will we go? She asked softly. David leaned closer, his voice warm. Somewhere safe, where you'll be loved. You'll never be trouble to me. Emma's eyes softened, and she smiled, a real, hopeful smile. In that moment, David knew he'd do whatever it took to give them a better life. He wasn't just a cop anymore, he was someone who'd fight for Emma and Sophie. Back at his small apartment, David sat by the window, the morning light spilling in. He'd spent another night at the hospital, and now his mind raced with questions. How could he adopt two girls? The process was daunting: paperwork, home visits, legal steps. But his heart was set. Emma and Sophie needed him, and he needed them. He opened his laptop and started researching adoption. Pages of rules and forms filled the screen, but he jotted down every detail. He called a social worker, asking about the first steps. Her voice was kind but honest. It's a long road, Officer David, but we'll guide you. Those girls are lucky to have you. David hung up, feeling a mix of nerves and hope. He thought of Lisa, wondering if she'd call back. Part of him hoped she'd understand, but another part knew he couldn't wait for her. The girls' faces, Emma's quiet strength, Sophie's gentle trust, stayed with him. He pictured them in a warm home, laughing, safe, no longer scared. That image fueled him. David stood, grabbing his jacket. He had a meeting with the social worker that afternoon. It was the first step in a long journey. But he was ready. For Emma and Sophie, he'd face anything: doubts, rules, even heartbreak. Because now, he wasn't just David the officer. He was David, the man who'd give two forgotten girls a family. And no matter how hard the path, he'd walk it for them.